All right, we're live.
We're live. All right. Good morning. For everyone watching on YouTube, apologize for the delay this morning. This is a public hearing was supposed to begin at 9 a.m. It's now about 9:30. We had some technical issues. This is a required public meeting for preliminary forest conservation plan, which is file number FCP 2020-004. This is for a vacant parcel located at the intersection of Hilltop Lane and Spa Road to develop an early learning daycare facility by Primrose School. So the Forest Conservation Act is a two-step process. The first of those steps is a forest stand delineation. That was delineated, reviewed, and approved on September 21 of 2020. That step happens prior to a formal application. So there's now been a formal application for a major site design plan and special exception to develop parcel. So we're in that step two, a preliminary forest conservation plan, which is being reviewed as part of that applications. So required public meeting, which is what we're having this morning. This meeting, as far as the record, will be held open for 10 days. Actually, I'm going to make it 11 because 10 days falls on a Sunday. So Monday, April 5th, the city will accept comments from the public. And you can send your comments to me. My email is ETS, as in Edward Tom Sam, at annapolis.gov. The applicant is going to explain the project and what they've proposed in more detail. The legal counsel for that is Phil Dales. I'm going to hand it over to Phil at this point.
Thank you, Tom. I'm just going to be brief myself and give some general parameters for the project and what's proposed so that anyone from the public who's listening to the explanation of the Forest Conservation Plan will have some sense of what the overall project is intending to accomplish as we consider what to do with the limited amount of forest on the site and where to place forest retention and replanting. And that you'll hear from Mr. Ken Wallace and Ms. Deb Schwab, who will go through the actual preliminary forest conservation plan aspects of this meeting. Primrose Schools is a national provider of childcare and early learning. There are approximately 400 locations all over the country. Primrose has been recognized with numerous national awards because the service provided is not just childcare, but social, emotional, cognitive, creative, physical education for children. And so what you'll see on the preliminary forest conservation plans that Mr. Wallace and Ms. Schwab will share is the primary building on the site, which is for the early learning and child care building, and then playgrounds surrounding that building. And of course, the necessary site work for parking lots, stormwater, and we considered the existing forest on the site in context of these needs, and in important aspect, the access into this site needs to be located as far away from the intersection of Hilltop and Spa as we can locate it. And so you'll see that the access into the parking lot for vehicles is as far from that intersection on Hilltop Lane as we could place it. And with that context, I'll turn this over to Mr. Ken Wallace. And I think Mr. Wallace is going to share a screen, or maybe Annie Luttrell, who is the civil engineer and also is on this call, though not on video, may share her screen if Ken's not doing it from his computer himself. All right, Ken, go ahead.
Okay, it looks like Annie's got the Forest Conservation Plan up. My name's Ken Wallace. I'm with Environmental Inc. Overall, the site is a 2-acre site, just over 2 acres, 2.07 acres. Of that, 1.07 acres is forested. You can see the tree line. It runs through the building area there, and she's outlining it with the pointer there. And so the goal is obviously to construct the building, the parking lots, and to do so, they will obviously need to impact some of the forest that is on the property. The forest that's on the property is not, according to the F4 stand delineation that I prepared, it's not in the best forest. It's a low priority forest that is out there. There are invasive species within that forest. You can see the areas in green, the dark green and the light green are areas that will be either retained or planted as part of this forest conservation plan. So they are going to grade the site to construct the building, the parking lot. To do so, they are going to impact the areas, some of the areas highlighted in light green. The light green areas will be replanted with I believe Deb Schwab can go into a little more detail on that when I'm finished here, but they will be replanted with, I think, 1-inch container stock. So the amount of forest cleared is roughly 0.88 acres. So a little less than an acre. The dark green are the areas that will remain, the forested areas that will be retained on site. And then the light green will be the areas that will be replanted. So they're clearing 0.88 acres, 0.19 acres of the dark green, which is the dark green, will be retained. And then another 0.67 acres or so will be replanted or reforested with native vegetation.
Annie, could I ask, as Ken talks here, could you highlight within the areas that are not shaded green, Annie, just with your cursor, the part where the tree line is, and show where the forest that we showed on our FSD is going to be cleared outside of these green shaded areas? I mean, I can see the tree line there in the white, but if we could just trace that through the building area and the parking lot so that folks can see where we are going to have to impact first.
So starting over here, this is the playground area. This is the tree line coming through the building and the parking lot. And it kind of, it's hard to see here. I can zoom in. Kind of wraps into this corner. And so this whole side is forested as well. And then
Thank
comes
you.
back around there.
And that's part of what Mr. Smith alluded to, the two-step process here. We delineated forest that's on site, and it was ranked in terms of its the quality of the forest, which was not high due in large part to what Mr. Wallace mentioned, the invasive species throughout the forest, the two forest stands that we delineated. And then the second step is what Mr. Wallace is presenting to us now, is the forest conservation plan, which involves the retention and the replanting of the outline. Now I'll give it back over to Annie and Ms. Luttrell and Mr. Wallace now.
Sure. In addition to the removal of the forest, there are three trees on the right-hand side in the back corner of the parking lot there that will also be removed. They're not specimens, but they are larger than 24 inches. Two of them are in fair condition. One of them is in good condition. But due to the access point where it has to be, as required by DPW, that is the access point into that parking lot. And those trees, it's just not possible to save those trees, trying to avoid most of the critical root zones. Plus, like I said, two of those trees are in fair condition at best. The stormwater management is proposed up front along the road. You can see the facilities up there. And I think there's one specimen tree, also specimen tree number 1 in the back here, that is right up along the LOD. The city of Annapolis Forester has been out there and is in agreement that that tree needs to come down. It's in poor condition. It's not in good shape. It's in poor form, many cavities. So that tree will need to be removed as well.
We should note there's a right of way along that back end of the site, correct, Mr. Shaw?
Yes, there is a BG&E. You can see this OH is the overhead lines. There's two utility poles on either side. So this area, we're in white, it cannot be planted because it's under the overhead lines. So that's why this area is just remaining in white and won't be replanted. And then there's a utility easement along this side of the property that has a storm drain and an existing sewer line.
Really, any iteration or design configuration for this site places that specimen tree, which is already in poor health, in under a lot of stress with the BGE easement where it is and the necessary line for the limit of disturbance being so close to it to the south. And so we understand we had initially made efforts to try to preserve that tree, but because of its poor condition and the location of the easement and the necessary line of development and disturbance, we understand why it would be best to not make efforts to preserve that tree. So with that in mind, we've requested the variances to remove the 3 significant trees that are within the drive aisle location that's necessary for this access point, being as far away as it can be from the intersection spot. So thanks, guys. Ken, I'm not sure if you're ready to pass it over to Deb, but if you've got more, I certainly didn't mean to cut you off.
Yeah, no, not at all. No, I think we can pass it over to Deb. She can, explain a little bit more on the planting plan for this property. Pass it over to you.
Okay. Right now, the reforestation is shown on a preliminary landscape plan, has not been finalized, but we've met or exceeded the planting requirements. We have 86 reforestation trees at 1 to 1.5 inch being shown in the areas to be reforested. And if specimen tree number 1 is also coming out, we'll be planting that area when we do final plants. As I said, we were leaving that root zone clear of new plantings now. The caveats that we deal with the planting is that with those rear overhead lines, we have to use smaller species that will be approved by BG&E to be within, the horizontal distance of those overhead lines. So the larger trees are planted closer to the fence line of the playground area, which works out well anyway, because they will grow and shade the playground. And then to the west side of the playground area, that's also all canopy trees, but also some evergreens to provide a little bit of more screening between the play area and Spa Road that is there. And on the east side, there's a line of trees there that are reforestation, but will also provide shade to the parking area. And that will wrap the corner and match the side where the overhead lines are there too. So in addition to the required reforestation, the landscape trees that'll be put on the site will mostly be native species. So while they are not considered reforestation trees, they will be adding to the habitat quality and environmental quality of the site. And, we have those trees in the stormwater, in the parking areas, and in the buffers. So I think that pretty much is where we are in reforestation. We meet the requirements or exceed.
Thanks, Deb. And just to clarify one point and then revisit another one that you made. The area that's hashed in the northwest corner of the site is not shown as having trees here because that's not replanting. That's something else, correct?
Right. On Ken's plan, that was the dark green area that was forest to remain.
And so if we combine those two plans for anyone in the public, you would see trees in both of those areas. And then the point I wanted to come back to just quickly, Deb, is when you referenced the specimen tree having been preserved previously, but now recommended per city staff guidance to be removed for all the reasons we discussed. That area we would be adding. Are we going to be adding replanting there, where that since that
Yes.
trees are going to be preserved?
Yes, we would be replanting that area. We didn't show replanting in it in this plan because we were staying out of that specimen tree critical root zone.
And
But
so
if
for
that
everyone,
tree is gone, we will fill that area in also with reforestation.
Great. And so anyone for the public who's watching, especially anyone in the adjacent residential area to the north, that area that's blank now, we'll be revising and adding replanting there. Okay, well, thank you both, Deb and Ken. I think that's it for our presentation. And we understand that we'll be getting any comments from the public in written form. And Mr. Smith said that the record for public comments can be kept open for 10 days or 11 because of the weekend. And we'll look forward to hearing any comments and updating folks on revised plans as soon as we can. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Phil. I just wanted to reiterate, I know you just said it, that we're going to hold the public record open until Monday, April the 5th. And you can email any comments to me. And my email address is ets@annapolis.gov. And I look forward to receiving those comments or questions. I think that's